Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino, and today I have a special guest. Her name is Rosemary. Hey, Rose, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you.
Good. Welcome to the show today. Before we get started, let me give the listeners and viewers a little bit of your background. Rosemary Young is an empowerment and trauma life coach who is currently living in Ontario, Canada. She's a writer and an author, and is the visionary compiler of an anthology that became an international best-selling book in 2020. She's also a co-author in an upcoming book to be published in July 2021 called Pursue by Purpose. Rose Young also worked as a certified cardiology technologist and as a medical lab technologist for several years before becoming a life coach. Rose is very passionate about helping others become empowered. Wow, that's amazing. So tell me a little bit about your background. Like, where are you originally from, and what was your upbringing like?
Okay, so I'm from Jamaica originally. I live in Canada, Ontario right now.
Mm-hmm.
And my upbringing was pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so tell me about that experience. I always like to hear more about the experience of especially people that come from different countries to the Americas, to Canada or the U.S. How was that experience for you, or at what age did you come to Canada?
Sure. Yeah, so for me, I came at a younger age. I came about, I think I was like 10, going on to 11. So for me, the experience was, as a child, you're excited to be in a new country and learn new things and meet new friends. So for me, the experience was just great. I have been back and forth, and it's just been amazing just having the sense of having two different environments. So I grew up in a very good environment, both in Jamaica and here, from going back and forth.
Yeah, awesome. And I know for me, so I'm originally from Mexico, and I came to the States when I was 10 too. And I know for me, it was a little bit challenging just being able to adjust to the culture, the different people. And with that, many lessons came, right? Many things that I've learned throughout the journey of my journey, specifically when I came here. How was it for you coming to a new place? Did you have any challenges? Were there any lessons that you learned through the process that you look back now and say, wow, that was a lesson that, if I can share this with somebody, I can definitely help them in their journey?
Yeah, my challenge was in the schooling. The way the schooling it's much different from what we had back home then. So that was one of my challenges, and making new friends. I wasn't really more on the shy side, but I was geared towards the shy side. So it was kind of hard making new friends, and then adjusting to the temperature as well. Like from the country Jamaica, it's a sunny place, and I came when it was winter time. So for me, it was like, okay, I don't really like this, but then I grew to like it. I actually love winter, by the way. But when I just came, that was a challenge for me as well. Just getting used to the environment as well. Yeah. So that was it.
Yeah, definitely. And then growing up, going to college or high school, did you have an idea of what you wanted to become? You know, we always talk about, when I grow up, I want to be this person. I want to work in this field. I want to be whatever, a doctor or whatever that might be. How
Oh
was it
yeah.
for you?
Oh yeah. I wanted to be a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be a writer, which actually life just bring me right back in circles and bring me back to writing now. And I wanted to be a doctor. So I knew I wanted to do something that was excited. That's something that's not having me sitting around a desk 24/7. I really don't like that because I'm an outdoor person. I love the outdoors and also like hands-on. And so for me, I wanted to do something that I could transfer my talents and my help to others. However, I wanted to do something that didn't have me stuck behind a desk all day. So that's me.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about you know, the time that you decided to venture out and become a coach, and how did that happen? Where did that come from? What was
Yeah.
the purpose behind that?
Okay, so my background that I chose was cardio technologist, and this is dealing with working, helping people to overcome, like heart problems, right? So I did the tests and stuff like that, right? Like stress tests where they walk on a treadmill, they check their heart rate and rhythm and all that. But during the time I was working as a cardio technologist, I was in a car accident. I was in a real bad car accident. And then when I was recovering from that car accident, I got in another car accident. So that kind of showed me right off, and I wasn't able to give my 100% in cardiology,
Hmm.
right? So after the accident happened, I had a lot of people coming to me and asking me questions and having me mentor them, right? So I decided I wanted to help others overcome whatever they were going through traumatically, whether it's be from childhood or being in an accident like myself. So that's how the coaching came about.
Mm. Yeah, one thing that's amazing about that is that sometimes we don't realize or recognize that our own experiences can definitely help us create a purpose, right?
Yeah,
And
definitely.
sometimes we go through, you know, experiences, and we don't understand why we're going through those experiences, yet from that pain a purpose is born, right? And being able to do that. So the idea of being a life coach, for those people that don't know exactly what that is, what is a life coach? How do you help people, or what are, you know, how is that all developed, right?
So basically, you help a client, for example, I help my clients to basically deal with whatever they're going on with in the present. They also look back in the past and try to, let's say, forgive themselves or forgive others so that they can move on to their future. And what you do is you guide them along and you help them to make um, good choices that can help them move from where they're at and moving forward into their future.
Got it.
Yeah.
Two things that you talked about right now with that is, you know, looking at the past, the present, the future, and understanding that. I believe that many different aspects, right? One of the things that I tell people, that my best relationship advice is, make sure you don't cheat on your future with your past, and stay focused on the today, the now moment, right?
Yes.
Because a lot of people tend to live in the past, and they get hung up with the past, and a lot of people are daydreaming on the future without really doing any actions or doing anything. So I don't know if have you seen a lot of that, and if so, how do you uh, address those things with your clients or with people that might be in that limbo?
Well, first of all, they have to get clarity, right? Clarity is very, very important. So they need to know exactly where they're at right now. Are they stuck? And if they're stuck, right, how can they become unstuck to move into their future? And in order to move into the future, you have to take action, right? And also you have to deal with whatever happened in the past. Because if you are still focusing on the past and working, like mindfulness, of course, like comes into play, where you're not aware of what happened in the past, or you continue to blame, or you continue to do the same things that you did in the past, you're not going to be able to move into the future, right? So that's how I help them to get clarity. It's clarity and awareness. They have to become aware. So awareness and clarity and all that, and also understanding exactly where you want to go. Because if you're just blindly going along, right, and without any directions, without having a roadmap per se, right, you're going to get lost. Most likely going to end up right back where you started, because you're just going to run around in circles. So with that said, you have to become aware of where you are, where you're coming from, where you want to go.
Yeah. Talking about also helping them make good choices.
Yes.
Right. How do you do that? A lot of people will probably be asking us, like, I don't know if I'm making the right choice or the bad choice, or not so good of a choice, right? How do you help them decide or look at the circumstances that are in front of them to determine whether or not whatever action we're taking or whatever direction we're going might be a good one?
Sorry, can you repeat the last thing that you said first? I didn't hear that. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So how do you help people more or less determine whether or not the choices that they're making might be a good one, the direction they're taking might be a good one or bad one, or how do you help them see them in making good choices?
Well, first of all, so they decide on different choices. Of course, there's more than one choices, and whichever one fits better in what their future looks like, what's going to be more beneficial to them in the future, then they would work towards that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And in terms of just being able to understand life coaching, right? Do you have any kind of principles that you teach upon? Are there any practices that you utilize for that? Is it like NLP or hypnotherapy or any of that stuff, or how do you go about it?
Well, for me, I don't do the therapeutical part, as in medication parts or anything like that. What I do is help the clients. It's up to them what they feel is best for them as well, because if I put my belief and my what I believe in them, then they have to now know that is it good for them or not. And also, this works with belief as well. Mm-hmm. So on an individual basis, of course, because what works for one don't work for the other. Because again, to answer your question directly, is every client have like different experiences, right? So for each client, it's like a different it's a different system, or a different advice or different remedy that would work for them. For example, somebody who have secondary trauma, for example, these are people who did not really go through the trauma themselves, but they've grown up or seen somebody else being through it, right? So now they take on like a blame or a responsibility to say maybe it's their fault. And then for them, it's a little bit different from somebody who actually was in the trauma, who have physically went through it. So it would be different for each client. Yeah. And I'm not sure if I answered the question there, but like it's an individual thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, definitely. So tell me about your first book, the Best International book back in 2020. What is the book about? What inspired you to write the book to begin with, and what's the message you're trying to deliver in the book?
Okay, so the book is exactly what it said. So the book is about broken trust, right? And I was inspired to write that book because of everything and all the brokenness I myself had gone through after my accident happened and during the recovery period. So I was broken in all three areas. So I was broken in my relationships, finances, and also in my wellness. So after I was in the process of recovering, To be honest, I was in so much pain that prayed. I don't know if you believe in God or anything, but I prayed that if God help me to get out of this and to get better, I was going to do everything in my powers and everything possible to help inspire others. And I came up with the idea of, okay, writing a book. And then I realized that my story, even though I went through it and I'm working towards overcoming it, I had a story, but there's so many other people who had a story, maybe different from me, who can inspire others. So I decided on doing an anthology, which is a group of people with different stories, with the same idea of inspiration to help others overcome. I don't know if that makes sense, but so we put together different stories, but the outcome was the same, where we overcame what we went through, and then we try to inspire others as well through this book.
Yeah, and so that's the new book coming out too, the Purpose, Pursuit by Purpose is a collaboration book.
Yeah, and that one basically, the story behind that, one of my co-authors now, she became inspired by even the first book, and she wants to put together a book where we can empower people. But this one is that sometimes things happen in your life that by default you find your purpose because of the pain that you went through. Because sometimes we chose, or we decide to do certain like jobs, or go into certain careers, or do something that we're just doing because we feel like doing it, or because was just given to us, right? Or maybe because we have some agenda that we want to get done. Now, when things happen to disrupt that and interrupt that, and we go through brokenness and pain, then sometimes through that pain we find our purpose. We start doing something else. For example, in my situation, I was a cardiology technologist, right? However, now I'm doing coaching, where I'm helping others in a different aspect. And because of the pain that I went through, now it propelled me or pushed me towards the coaching business. So that's what the second book is about.
Yeah, no, I definitely love that. And I like the concept of being able to do that. And definitely it speaks volume. And I think anytime you have a strong message, obviously one way to be able to get that message out into the world and be able to, for me, it's always, I want to inspire, empower, and aspire people, is through a podcast, or even through a book writing, right? And being able to do that. The people that you work with, do you work with people just in Canada or different parts of the world, or how do they find you?
Well, right now I'm in Canada, but I work with, because of the connection that the social media allows us, and Zoom and all that, right? I can work anywhere in the world through Zoom, and they can reach me like on Instagram or Facebook, or even through a website or something like that. So internationally.
Yeah. And so how are you, how can they find you? What's your handles or your website? How can people find you?
Okay, so for Facebook, roseyoung902, Instagram, rose.marie.young, and Instagram is rosemarieyoung.com.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So obviously you going through your own experience and dealing with two different traumatic, life-changing experiences due to the car accident, right? What were some lessons that you might have learned from that? Looking back now, you're like, here are some lessons that are so powerful that I want to be able to deliver this to the world.
Okay, so one lesson I learned is that you have to detach yourself, and I spoke about this to someone. You have to detach yourself in order to move on, right? And when I say detach yourself, for example, when I wasn't able to go back to work, and I lost some materialistic things, I found myself attaching myself to them. I was saying like, oh, my job, I was just so distressed about my job, my house, so what I had to do over time is detach myself by saying the job, like referring to it as the job, not my job, right? And I detach myself from losing like a house, like saying the house, the car, not my car. And even the pain itself, people keep referring to their pain as my pain, right? You can detach yourself and saying the pain. And eventually, like you can move on from that detachment mentally. It helps. I tried it and it does help. And that was one big takeaway that, like when I detach myself from materialistic things, then I can move on, like free my mind and I can move on. Another thing I got too, like from that was forgiveness is very powerful, right? At one point, I was blaming the world. I was blaming everybody for everything that happened. I was blaming the driver. I was blaming my boss and everybody else. However, when I stopped the blaming game, take responsibility, and um, forgiving even myself, right? I was able to move on. And there was other little things that I do. Thank you. I had like a thank you list that I created. And this was actually very, very powerful when I was able to be thankful for the little things, even though I didn't have these things that I lost, like my car and all that. I was able to give thanks for other things. And that was very, very helpful. That is actually one very powerful tool that you can move to help you to move on, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about the detachment, that's actually very interesting because words do matter, right? How we speak
Yes.
to ourselves, and obviously you hear this a lot in the affirmation of "I am smart," or sometimes you're having a bad day. I'm like, "Oh, I am dumb," and you start calling yourself names.
Yeah.
Yet I've never seen it and heard it from that perspective, which I actually really appreciate the fact that when you start giving meaning to stuff and making that direct connection by saying my house, my car, my pain, my whatever that might be. Do you feel like this detachment also works not just for materialistic things, also for like maybe relationships? Like it could be a friend that might be a toxic relationship or something, or a girl,
Yes.
whatever. And instead of saying my friend, the friend, I don't know, does that also work for relationships?
Yes, yeah, it works for a lot of things. Yes, it does. It does. It most definitely does because, again, back to the accident. After the accident happened, that's why you can find like the relationship chapter in that the book that I wrote, Broken Trust. That was one of the part that was broken for me as well. I lost a lot of people, like friends, right? So I had to now learn to detach myself and actually forgive them as well while I detach myself from the like the memory, the good memories we had. I had to detach myself from that because that hurt inside. You're not able to move on. You keep thinking about when we used to, when my friend and I used to. But then when you go through certain things, right, you realize who your real friends are. And then if you continue in that toxic relationship with them or even the thought of them, it's really hard to move on to other relationships. So it does work for relationship as well as materialistic things.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting, maybe you can tell me more about it. You said that through your accidents or through that period of time, you found yourself essentially broken in your relationships, in your wellness, in your finances. Definitely, I can see the finance and the wellness. How is it that the relationships decided to, or how did they ended up, falling apart and through that process losing so many different friends? Is it because you were at a different mentality aspect because of the accident, or why did that happen?
Okay, so when the accident happened, the first part of the accident, it was, like a month or two. I had friends that, visited and called. And so, but then over time, because I wasn't able to do physical stuff with them, like go places with them, or I wasn't able to connect with them on a different level. Like I was going through pain, physically, mentally, and everything like that. But then one by one, my friends, they disappear.
Mm,
They didn't call, and if I called, they were too busy. Or one friend um, after I recovered, I end up calling a couple of times before they answer the phone, and I'm like, what happened? I thought we were supposed to be friends, right?
yeah.
And this friend said to me, right, I didn't really know what to say to you. Like, like I, because it was both accidents were really scary accident, right? So,
Mhm.
um, the point that I was alive, I was grateful. But then with them, they didn't know how to, help me, or that's what she said. They didn't know how to help me, or they didn't know what to say to me, right? Because they knew that I was just going through so much, and they didn't know what to do. And I'm thinking, if you're my friend, right,
Right.
then
Yeah.
you're supposed to know what to do. But yeah, but like I said, you learn to forgive, right, and you learn to forget.
Yeah, and yeah, you know what? That's actually very important too. And the forgiveness, as you mentioned, is not so much for them. It's a lot of times it's for us because you can be here having these thoughts and ideas of that person, whatever did this to me or stop talking
Yeah,
to me, whatever. Meanwhile, that person is not even thinking of you. They've already moved on, and so you
yeah,
gotta just be able to forgive yourself for not for wherever that might be. And I like the idea is forgive, and maybe not so much forget is choose not to remember anymore because the memories are
yeah,
still going to be there on the unconscious level. Except
yeah,
I choose not to remember anymore and just be able to be okay with that. And so that I think is actually something very important. The other thing too that you mentioned here, which I like, and I definitely want you to elaborate a little bit more on this, is
mhm,
one of the things that you want to leave with the listeners is that your strength lies in your ability to move beyond the pain. The pain and the memories of what happened is in the past and does not define who you are. There's always more to us than what meets the eyes. Can you elaborate more on that? Because I think that's a very powerful statement in terms of that.
Okay, the part about your strength lies within your ability to move beyond the pain
Hmm.
is where you become empowered. That's the empowerment part in everything that I do, where I try to inspire and motivate people to become inspired. You've gone through pain, or you're going through pain, but there's so much more to you than just being in this pain, right? And from that pain, you can learn, you can grow, you can become transformed, right? And sometimes people look at other people and they don't see the person, the real person, that part that I mentioned about you're more than what meets the eye. Because I do believe in never to judge a book by its cover. I totally believe in that, because sometimes you meet somebody and they might look simple, or they might look a certain way, or even say something, and you might start judging that person based on that, for like whatever you just see. But deep down, that person could be the best person, or an amazing person, or amazing human being. And to me, each of us all have like um this vulnerability, but yet you have this soul that is just so pure, right? And but people cannot see that from the outside sometimes, right? So that's why I have that statement. Like, I really believe strongly in that statement, because as human beings, we have to know that we are more than what people sees. We are more than what we're looking at,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And then that definitely takes a very deep aspect to be able to look deep down in ourselves and find who are we truly are, right?
Yes.
And what can we actually do? Because a lot of times we don't give ourselves enough credit, right? We
It's true. It's
get
so
to it.
true. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. In terms of obviously you've gone through a lot, you've done so many
Mhm.
different things. Do you have any daily habits that you do every day to keep you in a positive state of mind, or just keep winning the day?
Okay, well, my first thing is when I get up in the morning, before I do anything else, I do believe in a creator and a higher being. So I pray, right? I pray. Even for a short while, I do my prayers, and then I have to give thanks. I have to give thanks, and then I go on with my day. But there's something else that I also do. At the end of the day, I look back and I give thanks for the day. So I created this thank you list that I do, where it doesn't really matter how simple it is. I put it down on my list. Like I'll put like thank you for, like, I actually, it's called a thank you list. So it's actually thank you for water, thank you for my family, thank you for, and I have this thank you list that got me through a lot of bad days when I was totally alone, and when I was totally in pain. I would be crying and I'd be writing. And that's how come my writing comes about too. I started out as a young child, wanted to write. And with all the busyness in life, right? Going to work and all that. I get like totally, lost in everything else, and I didn't write. So it's funny that after this accident, the first one, the second one, both of them, I start writing, and writing actually helps me to overcome a lot of stuff. So I created a thank you list, and that was part of my writing, where when I had nothing to write, I just write thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I read every little thing that I can think of, right, on that list. And that helps a lot.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I usually heard of a gratitude list, and perhaps along the same lines. Nevertheless, the fact that you put the thank you in front of it definitely can help in many different aspects.
Yeah.
Rose, in terms of so do you normally work with females, males? Does it really matter, or do you work with both for your coaching?
Basically, I work with women, but men are welcome. I do have men who ask my opinions and stuff as well. We all go through traumatical experiences. So, yes, I am open to working with men as well.
Good, awesome. My last question for you is, for the people that are listening to us that might be going through a challenge, uh, whatever that challenge might be, what is one thing, you've already given us a lot of stuff, except what is one thing that they might be able to do to start overcoming that challenge?
Trusting in themselves, right? Just the process. Whatever you're going through, it's maybe long, but it won't be forever. So just trust. The first thing you have to do is want to be unstuck. You want to move on. And once you make that decision that you don't want to stay where you're at, right? You start taking actions, but you have to trust yourself. Trust yourself and be committed.
Mm,
Be committed. Be committed. Whatever you decide that you want to do, you be committed.
I like that. Trust yourself and be committed. Definitely. Um, Rose, I got to tell you, I really enjoyed this conversation and this interview with you. Anything else that you want to say before I let you go?
Well, to everyone who's listening, I always say never leave yourself behind. Never leave yourself behind. So that's what I want to say.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, Rose, thank you so much for being in the show. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. It was a
Yes,
pleasure.
definitely. And for the rest of you guys, do me a favor. Please make sure you check out Rose in her social media website. And do me a favor, share this video because somebody needs to hear this message. And stay tuned for the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Goodbye.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.